Delighted today to welcome to the Green Ginger Club Peter Donegan, star of The Voice and many other things. And let's find out a little bit about him.
Yes, I've been called many other things. That's right.
Peter, welcome. I was going to start by, you're a fan of Willie Nelson. Now,
Yes.
How did that come about?
Through Dad, really. I mean, because you have to remember that when I was born, while I was born in London, it's a very similar situation to the actor Kiefer Sutherland, if you remember him.
Yes.
Donald Sutherland's son. Is the case that Dad was filming in London, and in my case, Dad was gigging in London. I was born here, but we were actually living in Lake Tahoe, California. And that's where I spent the early parts of my life. And Dad was a big Willie Nelson fan, and Waylon and Chris Christopherson, the whole of the Highwaymen, really. And when Willie used to come to perform in Tahoe, Dad would go and see him, sometimes get up and play with him, that kind of stuff. So the record collection that we had at home. In fact, one of the first reasons I knew I wanted to play piano was listening to the Family album, which is a live album by Willie Nelson, recorded, at that casino in Tahoe, and listening to Willie's sister playing piano, to "May the Circle Be Unbroken." So just that, and I was thinking that sounds really cool. I really want to do that, and then that led me on to Jerry Lee Lewis and Fats Waller and Fats Domino and all these kind of people, So, why do I like Willie Nelson? Because of Dad is the short answer, but the long answer is because he's brilliant. I think I'd have liked Willie anyway, because he's number one. The stories he tells are fantastic. The tone of his voice is addictive. And even listening to Trigger being played, it's Willie before Willie opens his mouth, because Trigger's opened his, basically.
Mm-hmm.
You went from the States to Spain, didn't you, with the family?
I did, yes. And
Yeah.
they dragged me kicking and screaming. And I got to tell you, though, I mean, where we were in Spain, which was on the south coast, the Costa del Sol, you realize how Spanish California is, especially where LA and all that kind of Malibu, how Spanish that really is, because it's very much the same. You've got beach right here, and if you're on the beach and you turn around and look behind you, you've got mountains right here.
Yeah.
And then you look at the houses; they're all Spanish-style houses, with the what do you call them, the terracotta roof tiles and the rest of it, and you're like, there's no difference.
Yeah. I think you thought of a second career when you were there, didn't you?
Oh, football! Yeah, well, yeah, because when I was at school, I was the school goalkeeper.
Mm.
Yeah, and because my PE teacher at one of the schools I went to, because bear in mind I changed school 14 times. At one of the schools I went to, which was over towards Torremolinos, he was a scout for a Malaga football team, and he asked me if I wanted to try out, and I spoke to Dad about it, and he said, "Well, if you want to do it. But the thing is that, you've got to sit and think about it. What are you still going to enjoy and find fun when it gets serious? Are you still, when it gets serious and the pressure's on playing football, are you still going to enjoy it?" And I was like, no, probably not. Probably not, but with the music, it was a case of, it gets hard on tour. Tours get grueling, and there's a romance about it, but there's some gigs which, you're on stage, and sometimes you think about, should I just pack up now and just go home, in the middle of the gig? There are gigs like that, but I don't know what it is when you are that passionate about it. You just, it's what we say in the band sometimes. We go, man, it's going to be a difficult gig. Right, heads down. I'll see you at the end.
Warm breeze on the summer nights, city lights as people go about their thing. Sirens of police cars, cry like soft guitars. That's the song the city sings. Nothing can replace the sunset on your face. Oh, I could have kissed it as I held your hand walking George's band plays into the mystic. Yeah, you can hold me down and take off my crown, and all it would take is one look. Drag me around and I'll be your clown. If only you knew what it took for you to walk with me, talk with me, laugh with me, dance with me, take me for all that I am. I'll walk to you, crawl to you, lie for you, die for you, do it all, don't give a damn. 'Cause I'm yours, yes I'm yours. There's a freshness in the air, it's like someone heard my prayer, and I start my life again. The city's the backdrop of our love, your body fits like a glove as we dance to the summer rain. And time flies so fast, this moment seems to last from now until kingdom comes. As I touch your fingertips, learn to kiss your lips, I know we will be one. Yes, you walk down the aisle, see your daddy smile as the whole world turns to look. Vision in your dress, shed a tear of happiness. Oh, you know what it took for you to walk with me, talk with me, laugh with me, dance with me, take me for all that I am. And I'll walk to you, crawl to you, lie for you, die for you, it all, don't give a damn. 'Cause I'm yours, yes I'm yours. Sit and walk with me, talk with me, laugh with me, dance with me, take me for all that I am. And I'll walk to you, crawl to you, lie for you, die for you, do it all, don't give a damn. 'Cause I'm yours, yes I'm yours. Yes I'm yours.
When I write a song, I have a process where I like to look at the lyrics on their own with no music and just read them out like a letter. And if it all makes sense and has a lovely impact, just bare like that, the song's good.
I think you honed your writing skills at the Buddy Holly Foundation. Yeah.
Well, they certainly did have a big impact. I mean, I've been writing songs before that.
Yeah, sure.
I've been, because it was my Superman EP that I put out in 2017, which I decided to go independent because I was having issues with. It was a catch-22 because I'm very, very. There is no words to describe how proud I am of Dad and the legend that he is, and everything that he achieved. And I will talk until the cows come home about everything that Dad did and the importance of what he did, you know. But I try to be an artist in my own right, you know, and Dad always gave me the advice. He said, if you're going to have any chance of making it on your own in this business, you have to write your own songs. And that's what I've done. And record labels were just interested in another reboot of Dad's songs sung a different way or whatever, you know, and that's all they wanted. And at most, they might include one of my originals on there as an appease me thing, you know. So I just parted ways with everything and went the independent route, you know, once I realized how. And I did the Superman EP in 2017, and that led to a few things, one of which was the Buddy Holly Educational Foundation. I met them through Billy Bragg at the AMA Awards, and they said, oh yeah, we'd love to have you come on as a scholar. And I said, lovely. So I went to Pennard, which is sort of Glastonbury area, and had the first songwriting retreat, met some wonderful people, because it was the Chris Difford songwriting retreat, and I do recommend it for anybody. It's a hell of an experience where you just get paired off with random songwriters every morning, write a song, perform it in the evening, you know, and it's, you know, it's fantastic. And then I got taken to the version of that in Texas, which is in Lubbock, Texas, which was where Buddy Holly is from. There's a connection between my dad and Buddy, but I'll go into that later. And it's, you know, I fell in love with Texas, wrote a few songs which I'm very proud of there, namely Thank You Texas, which I wrote, and that tells a story as well. And I won 2 awards because of it at the Texas Sounds Country Music Awards last year.
So before we lose the track, just do the story about your father and Buddy Holly, because that sounds really fascinating.
Yeah, it's very quick. Basically, back then, there was a standoff or an agreement, whatever way you want to call it, between the Musicians Union in the UK and the American Association for Musicians over in the US, and you couldn't have an artist going one way without another one coming the other way to make an equilibrium. So it was, you know, you couldn't have a mass exodus or something, you know. So Dad had just had the hit with Rock Online, gone to number 8 in the States. Dad had to tour it in the US. So they were thinking, well, who we're going to send the other direction? They go, well, we'll send Buddy Holly because he's not doing much. So Buddy Holly flew over and did his first British tour, and we know that went well. You know, and then I think it was his next tour after that, my dad actually met up with him, and there's a picture of them all together. You know, so I mean, but these guys at the Buddy Holly Educational Foundation didn't know about that, and I mentioned that, and they were like, "Damn!" And we've got you here, and I said, "Yeah." There was no different persona really on stage than what there was off stage. He was the same person. You know, he still had that same life. I mean, there was the odd days where you're not feeling well, but you put it on stage, and when you come off, you're a bit more quiet. You know, we all know what that's like. You know, because you're not going to let the audience know you're not feeling well. It's not. They've paid good money to come and see you. You know, and Dad gave me some great pieces of advice. I remember taking care of him. I was his PA for a few tours, and I said to him, I said, "You're not feeling well. Why don't you just come back? You don't have to," because he always met by the merch stand and shook hands and signed stuff and just had a chat, because he wanted to show his appreciation, because, you know, for what I'm about to say. And I said to him, I said, "Just go back to the hotel and just chill out." He says, "No, I'm not going to do that." I said, "Why?" He says, "They've paid good money to come out and see me." He says, "And without them, I don't have a career." You know, he says, and he says, "They deserve it." He said, "They've been a good audience tonight, you know, and I want to show my appreciation." He says, "I'm not going to stay as long because I'm not feeling well." He says, "But I'm going to go out."
Oh, I wish I had someone to do gags with. Remember the old days? It was lovely. Oh,
Good evening, good evening, good evening.
Place is haunted. Hello.
Good evening, young Lonnie. Can your wife keep a secret?
Yes, of course she can keep a secret.
Good, then I'm safe.
Dad and Des O'Connor, because they did a lot of touring together. You can find the posters online, and because then it was variety shows, wasn't it? So you had, you know, all sorts of chart toppers, comedians, dancers, everything on the same bill. This group of people, there's like 14, 15 of them, I think there was. Don't quote me on that number, but they'd come over from Australia to see the show. And, you know, Des was part of it as well. And Dad and Des had gone down to the box office to see what the ticket numbers were like. and found this group of people outside there, and there was a kerfuffle because they'd got the wrong night. They thought it was that night, but it wasn't. It was the next night, and they were flying back to Australia the following day. I mean, so that's gutting to know that you've missed it, and you've missed it by a day. There's nothing you can do about it. So Dad and Des took them all out for dinner.
Oh,
you can't come all that way for nothing.
What a nice thing to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've got to get something. The two of them were like, no, I can't leave them like this. Come on.
What is sexy and extremely attractive?
I don't know. What is sexy and extremely attractive?
And limps.
And limps.
I couldn't tell you right now.
Peter, can I ask you a question that I hate?
Yes.
I promised myself I'd never ask this question, and here I am asking it. It's about genres. It seems to me that you've got your feet in three places, like the United States, Spain, and Britain.
Right.
You've got a father who was a singer of skiffle, which basically was influenced by the United States. You like Willie Nelson. You're now in Britain. How do you decide what you're going to sing and what it sounds like? Because in a world where the genre is what is marketed, are you schizophrenic about this, or do you know exactly what you want to do?
No, I know what I want to do. Because Dad, I mean, obviously, when they called it skiffle then, I mean, it was really Ken Collier looking for a terminology for it, because they didn't want to call it anything like that, because back in the early 50s or pre-56, when Rock Island Line came out, nobody wanted to be laughed at by the purists and the critics for saying, I'm singing blues music, and they go, well, you're not African American, how can you sing blues music? Nobody dared do that, and that's one of the sort of boundaries that Rock Island Line kind of hit down. So they called it skiffle music because that was the term that when they said, those bits that you're doing in the middle of the jazz set, when you're not playing, those sort of folky kind of sets, where everybody gets up and dances. Well, what do you call those? And Ken's like, skiffle music, So he just grabbed a term and it stuck. I mean, skiffle now, because when you think about what skiffle was, it was country, folk, blues, a little bit of jazz mixed in there as well with some of the chord progressions. Because if you listen to Seven Golden Daffodils is very jazzy, even Chewing Gum is extremely jazzy. All those kind of tunes, they had a lot of jazz in there. So it's and what do we use as a terminology now to cover that umbrella is Americana. So skiffle is the old, let's just call it the 1950s term, British term for Americana, is basically what it was. So that was Americana artist, is what we would say now. And I've had that discussion with a few people where they kind of have that, So, what I'm doing now very much follows in that line, not intentionally. It's just where I, feel at home. Growing up, like I said, before, California, Florida, and then, and Spain and everything. But don't forget, while I was in Spain, I'm still surrounded by the same record collection, of Dad's, which was, as I mentioned before, full of, like we said, Willie Nelson, Emmylou Harris, and Ray Charles, all these kind of stuff, So it's eclectic, but my heart lies in the country / Americana genre because there's a lot more story to be told. I like telling that. There's something lovely about being able to stand on stage. Yeah, you might have just, really rocked everybody, up with some big stadium country style kind of thing, full band. But it's nice after that to bring it right down and do just guitar and vocals for a second. And there's a nice message in the lyrics because it has such an impact.
From the moment you were born, I knew that I'd adorn my heart and my sleeve. Give you all of me and more. That is where I swore I'd love you more than you'd believe. Be there to throw and watch you grow into more than I could ever be. Yeah, my heart's beating fast. Took my breath as you'd clasp on my finger holding tight. Embrace you in my arms, kiss your cheek and spin you yarns. Hold your smile, it feels so right. And there's something deep inside I have no answer for. And there's nothing you could say or do would change it. I'll always be the one to hold your hand, 'cause that's just who I am. And I'll stand by you, my little man. Yeah, lying in your crib with your hand under your head. And I'd whisper a prayer full of words that I'd left unsaid. Yeah, I'm always by your side. You're the best thing I've ever done. Yeah, you're the best thing about me. You're my son, and there's nothing you could say or do would change it. I'll always be the one to hold your hand, 'cause that's just who I am. And I'll stand by you, my little man. Yeah, there's nothing you could say or do would change it. I'll always be the one to hold your hand.